Welcome to the Live from South College podcast. I'm your host, Kathleen Stockham. The Live from South College podcast is your source for all South College activity, including new student information, deep dives into our 100 plus programs and concentration, tools of the trade, and even live on location from all of our campuses. Great interviews with faculty, staff, deans, and hear from South College students and alumni in their own words. From certificates all the way to doctoral degrees, catch up with Live from South College for the lighter side of helping your dreams find direction. It's a surreal broadcast for me today. In August of 2024, I had a great conversation with a podcast host from a very large school, picking his brain a little bit about the pros and cons of starting a podcast. After some work on my end to build a content calendar and show design and general premise of what we wanted to do, I nervously sat with our chancellor and vice chancellor to pitch a crazy idea for something we had not ever done before. But to my surprise, they asked for a sample episode to get a feel for what I was attempting to do. I told no one what I was up to and quietly scheduled my first interview with an institutional leader whom I knew would be a good sport about it. Using a free platform and only the microphone on my computer, we put together a 35-minute Zoom video of what a podcast could look and sound like. Yes, it was amateur and it had the sound quality of a cassette tape home recording in 1978, but the genesis of the idea was there. And in November of 2024, the Live from South College podcast was born. And yes, with better equipment. The first year of the broadcast has been fun. It's been a lot of laughs, but it's been a lot of learning too. I had considered making this 1 year anniversary a blooper episode because, well, I have a few of those. But on a more serious note, we've had some incredible guests with a lot of amazing things to say about their programs and experience at South College. All of my guests have brought their expertise, heart, and most of all, their passion for what we do. And you can clearly hear it in their responses. As a look back on some of our most memorable guests, I picked a few that really stood out. Last fall, our Asheville campus and colleagues suffered a once in a generation hurricane and catastrophic flood. Here is our former Asheville campus president and current chief academic officer, Dr. Danielle Kwasnick, recounting the harrowing days and not knowing where her staff and students were on episode 2 of the podcast. Listen in.
It was truly a flood of a lifetime, something that's never been seen here in Asheville. So I think the best word to describe how we are overall, faculty, staff, and students, is resilient. What had happened that week is we had a heavy rainstorm that had hit Asheville, and then coming behind that was a hurricane that was coming from the Florida area and had hit down in Florida. And so we had had a great deal of rain and saturation prior to the hurricane actually hitting the region. So once the hurricane came through, being from South Florida and living through many, many hurricanes, we just kind of thought it was a heavy rain. It wasn't much. And then when the rain came through Thursday night on the 26th, and on the 27th is when we realized that I came out to check on campus around noon that day and drove over some areas and rivers that were completely flooded, especially the Swananoa River. It's an unincorporated area of the western region, and the Swananoa River had, as well as the French Broad River, had swollen so much so that it was almost about to take over one of the main thoroughways and highways. And I drove over that with my daughter, who was in town, and to come check on campus. And that was when I realized, and I actually became very scared and frightened. As I've mentioned, I've grown up through many hurricanes, Cat 3s, Cat 4s, living in Florida. And to have something come in, it was a rain event, it was a water event, but there was nowhere to go. And that was the reality that we realized. So we still had cell service at the time, and we were able to still be contacting and doing outreach. I was calling our facilities because there was an issue with the locks in the building, only to within 1 hour, we lost all communication with outside of this area, as did everyone, because all of cell service went down. So suddenly kind of knowing what was happening and being connected, were all disconnected very quickly. And it was a real eye opener to how reliant we are on our cell phones to communicate. We no longer have landlines, so we weren't able to call out. And that's when the reality of everything really started hitting, was that Friday afternoon when we no longer knew what was going on. We had no internet, no television, and even the radio stations were not tuned into publishing anything about what was happening. So we really didn't know what was going on. We drove and got out on Saturday morning and went to Charlotte. And that's when I started to learn about the missing and those that we had the loss of life that had been experienced in this area, and those that were missing. But being in Asheville and not knowing how, we tried for 4 hours to get out of Asheville on Friday and realized we were kind of stuck in a bubble because of all the roads that had flooded and washed away. There was no way out, and there was no way to leave, and everyone that was here was not able to get out. It was really surreal. Like I said, for 4 hours, and we drove down roads where trees were down, half the road was you weren't able to cross it. There were parts of the roads that were broken away, and realized that we couldn't get out. And Saturday morning, we were under a curfew. So as soon as that curfew was lifted at 7 a.m., my family and I made the choice to leave and try to get to Charlotte, North Carolina, because we had again lost communication and realized that our family, friends, and relatives didn't know if we were dead or alive, because we had already known at that point that there was a loss of life in those missing. So that was Saturday. Those first few days, the first critical issue was to determine that all of our faculty, staff, and students were safe and accounted for. At the time, only myself and one other faculty member who happened to have a residence in Charlotte were able to communicate with one another. She happened to be a PA faculty, so she immediately started working to reach out to their students and their faculty and staff. So that was a huge burden that was taken off of me at that time, and a huge help. And I want to commend that individual for being able to do that and just immediately stepping up and taking action. And that was the reality of what needed to happen. Again, the safety of our faculty, staff, and students was paramount. So the first thing that I did was start using our emergency alert system to send out text messages and emails. Of course, they weren't getting them. Cell service was spotty, so at times I was getting responses back. So by Sunday, I had heard from all but 6 or 7 faculty and staff, and they were safe and accounted for. And then at that point, I reached out to emergency contacts for those 6 or 7 people, and very thankful and grateful that by Monday morning at 7 a.m., all faculty and staff were accounted for. So we had a student that it might be a familiar story because it was one that has been on national news. We had a student who was on the roof of her home, and her parents were with her and her 7-year-old son. And they were in process of being rescued, and the rescuers were there. And she took a picture of her mom and dad on the roof and sent it to her other 2 sisters. And right after that moment, very shortly after, the roof collapsed. And the mother, the father, our student, and our student's 7-year-old son were swept into the river. Fortunately, the student was caught up in some branches and was kind of stuck. And that is what saved her life, because unfortunately, she lost both her mother, her father, and her 7-year-old son.
That was an incredible story, and it still haunts me to this day. When you have a moment, take a listen to episode 2 to hear more about Asheville. Surge Tech is an amazing program we have here at South College, and Senior Program Chair Chris Blevins recounted for us her first day, kind of trial by fire, as a surgical technologist herself, and all of the important things she learned, like there is no crying in the OR. Listen here for episode 6.
I will tell you, my favorite was what got me into Surge Tech in the first place. I was pre-med all the way. I wanted to do anything other than medicine my entire life, other than be an astronaut for about 5 minutes. But I was hit by a drunk driver and I played Division I volleyball and lost that. And so life hits you, right? And literally. Then I was lost for a little bit. My uncle was an anesthesiologist, and he said, come be what we used to call an orderly back in the day. He says, come to this little it's a little podunk hospital in the middle of Texas. He said, come just work on a patient, like come help me, just get back into get into an operating, like just come get into medicine, because I was super lost. And so I go in there, and it was right when the very first, what we call a Roux and Y gastric bypass surgery was created. So that tells you how old I am. But so I'm just scrubbing floors and like turning over rooms and just trying to figure life out again. And there we had this surgeon. He's like 5 foot nothing. And we had patients that were morbidly obese, quite large. And they started to need people who could just help with retracting extra tissue. And I was just one of those people. I'd been there about 6 months, and I just kept saying yes, like I'll help in any way possible, and knowing who my uncle was, and just I kept building trust. And this was before you had to be certified, by the way, which is scary. So they came to me, Paula, my OR charge nurse, and she came one day and she said, "Chris, do you want to learn how to scrub in?" And I didn't even know what that meant. I said, "Okay." And I said, "Sure," because I don't know how to say no, as y'all know at South College. And so I go, and so she says, we need help in the operating room, and you're going to put gown and gloves on, and they're going to help you. And you're going to stand there, and you're going to put your hands in this patient and do everything that doctor says. And I don't want you to touch anything." And I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." So I stand next to this woman, and she teaches me how to do a hand scrub, which is, if you've seen Grey's Anatomy, it's pretty much the only thing they do right. And so, they walk me through this little hand scrub, and so I'm walking around. They don't touch anything, don't dry your hands, because everything has to be perfectly done. So I do that. And then they walk me into this operating room, and they dried my hands with a sterile towel. And then this woman puts a sterile gown and gloves on me. And I am standing there scared to death. I can feel my heart rate. And so then now that I'm sterilely gowned and gloved, you have to stand a certain position too. And so they put me in this spot in the room, and they're like, "Don't move." And I'm telling you, Kathleen, I did not move. And then here comes this patient, and here comes this entire team. And I had never seen that before. And they get this patient on the table. And next thing I know, this patient's being intubated, and they're prepping, and there's drapes. And I mean, everything happened so quickly in the operating room because we work in tandem. So boom, 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 boom. Before I know it, this patient is now draped out in blue, and I can't see anything but this one little space. And then this woman takes this huge table of instruments and this other table, and the surgeon walks in, and he's gowned and gloved, and he's so scary to me. And so they make this incision, and I hear all these noises. And then finally, Paula pats me on the back of my head, and she's like, "Okay, move up, baby girl, move up." So here I am, like walking like a little zombie, because I don't know what to do. And they get up there, and doctor takes my hand, and he shoves it into the inside of this patient. And I've never touched anatomy in my life. And so I shoves it up and pushes it, and he goes, "Don't move." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And I'm standing there, and my ignorant rear. And so he pushes it up. And so for all of you that don't, what he's done is I'm holding the top of the abdomen, and I'm pushing up on the diaphragm. But of course, I don't know this. But I'm feeling this patient's heart, and I start crying. It's the middle of the OR, and I'm bawling. If you cry and it drips onto the sterile field, you've contaminated.
Yeah.
That's a bad day. So I'm like standing there, and he yells, and he looks at me, and he's like, "Are you crying?" I can't move. I can't move. I've got my hand pushing up, and I'm like, and I'm crying.
Yeah.
And he's yelling at me. He's like, "Paula," which he's yelling at the OR nurse. And she comes running up there, and she's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I'm holding her heart." And I'm not. But I can feel her. Now I know things, right? So now I'm like, "You idiot." But no. But anyway, because I can feel this patient's heart, and it was just so beautiful. And I'm holding, and he's like, "She's gonna contaminate." And of course, there are curse words and things. And
Of course.
so Paula she's like leaning my head back, and she's wiping my eyes. And she's like, "You cannot cry. Like, stop it." knock it off. Like, she's like, you can't cry. You're going to contaminate. Like, it's okay. Just don't move. Like, don't. Oh, so I'm like, I get it together. And that's when I fell in love with surgery. And I was like, I don't know what just happened. And I don't know this lady that gowned and gloved me and that is helping this surgeon and passing all of this stuff. But what is she? And that's what I want to do. Like, that's who I want to be. And then, so when I finally got out of there and got my life, like I figured out, okay, I just survived this. And this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And then I said, what do you do? And she's like, I'm a surgical technologist, and looking at me like I'm stupid. And I was like, that's what I want to do.
For our incredible PA programs, we get thousands and thousands of applicants, and only the top tier get in. I asked Program Director and Associate Dean of PA, Dr. Don Yeager, what is the winning formula and the typical profile for a PA student? This is on episode 5.
So for most students, initially, of course, you have to have a bachelor's degree. Typically, it's going to be in the health sciences or a health-related degree, similar to that of going into medical school. So this would be followed by a master's level PA program. This is accredited by ARC-PA, our accreditor. And this is rigorous training. It helps to ensure that we are well prepared to provide high quality care to our patients. So the typical profile for a candidate is one who is well-rounded, who has a strong academic record, provides impactful contributions outside the classroom. Essentially, we're looking for a candidate with high grades, especially in the sciences, as this is a science-based curriculum, has had roles maybe in leadership, community service, volunteer work. Candidates need to have a strong critical thinking skill set, and they need to be self-aware. So most students applying to the program typically have a overall GPA of about 3.68 and a science GPA of 3.61. Then we also ask for the GRE, which is usually on average about 304. And then we want our students to have direct patient care. So this varies from cohort to cohort, but on average, it's about 2,000 to 3,000 hours. And we also recommend shadowing hours, of course, because we really want you to live in the day of the life of a PA. We want to make sure that you know what you're getting into. So in the end, the field requires passion for work, compassion for patients, and critical thinking skills so that you can assess a medical problem, come up with a diagnosis, and a treatment plan. Typically, we'd like to have some shadowing hours with a PA, although all of us as clinicians kind of do the same thing in a sense. Although our educations may be slightly different, in the end, we practice medicine, we diagnose, we treat illnesses. So while our training might be slightly different, whether you shadow with a PA or a physician or a nurse practitioner, I mean, that's really what we're looking for. Again, just seeing what we do as a clinician.
With potential students listening, so what's the number one secret that you would give to an applicant to help them stand out?
So I don't know if it's necessarily a secret or not, but what I would just tell students is you just need to be prepared for the interview. I mean, I will just say that our faculty are very passionate regarding our students, and they're great instructors. They're very intuitive. So during the interview, we just ask you to be honest and be yourself. Admissions committees are looking for candidates who not only have strong academic and clinical backgrounds, but also bring a diverse perspective and a genuine passion for the profession. The application, in essence, provides us with your academic background. It includes letters of recommendation, personal statements of that nature. But, during the interview process, we just want to make sure that you're a good fit for us and us for you. And so we want to know that ultimately you're all in and you're prepared to embark on becoming an outstanding clinician.
We've also had some fun putting students together. We put an accelerated BSN current student with an accelerated BSN alumni who was out already in the workforce. Some great tips and stories came out of that meeting, including this exchange on episode 8.
At this point in sixth quarter, you've taken all your classes. The biggest thing I can say is take as many multiple choice and questions as possible across all of your subjects. Don't just rely on, the materials the school gives you. I definitely recommend spending some money and maybe getting a different study tool like a UWorld or an Archer Review, and broaden your question base. The questions on the NCLEX are definitely written different than what you're used to. I definitely would recommend I took hundreds of questions a week over and over and over again. That by the time I sat down for my NCLEX, I was kind of ready for anything. That would probably be my biggest tip, and do more than what they're recommending for you to do based off where your scores and your tests have been and where your ATI stuff has been. That would probably be my biggest tip.
So labor and delivery is my heart and soul. I love it. It is just everything that I wanted to do. And I'm trying my best to get in there for a first job because there are some hospitals that do hire new grad nurses into labor and delivery, but it is such a competitive area that I have already accepted a job in an oncology unit for the time being to get skills, because until I get where I want to be and can stay there, I'm going to get as many skills as I can to be as prepared as I can.
I can say that skills is something, at least for me in the ER, and especially for L&D, if you have an L&D triage unit where those mothers that are ready to give birth then and there, you're going to have to start lines on them. You're going to need to get the monitor on the baby as fast as possible, depending on how they're presenting and stuff like that. Definitely hard skills. I can say I've been an ER nurse now for about 8 months, and I feel very confident in like IV starts and getting patients on monitors and working them up within 15, 20 minutes. Those are the things you're going to need to get comfortable with. I think your choice, if you decide to stay in the oncology unit, would be good. 6 months to a year, and then after that, you can go wherever you want, for sure. Most challenging for me was coming out of school. Going to the ER was definitely daunting and extremely challenging, but I wanted that. I wanted to be ER trained. I wanted to take all of my knowledge from South College, which is so broad and wide spanning because you have to take the NCLEX. The challenging thing for me is just kind of taking that, narrowing it down and making it specific for the ER. I've bought an ER nursing book, and I've been taking all the knowledge that I know and just kind of fine-tuning it to the ER to be the best ER nurse that I can. Getting confidence with cardiac drips and intubations and, conscious sedation and everything that we do in the ER has definitely probably been the most challenging, because that's not something we're like completely exposed to in nursing school, but that just comes with time and practice. And I thankfully have really great coworkers. I hope you have the same thing on the unit that you get onto, is finding great coworkers that you're not scared to ask questions. If you need help, they're there to help you. Nursing is a constantly adapting, learning field, professional field. Things are constantly going to be changing, but that would be probably the most difficult thing, is just kind of taking everything from school and making it ER specific, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so ladies, level with me, both of you. What was the worst time you had in school? Abigail, I'll start with you. What's been the worst thing so far for you?
I feel like most people would say med-surg, but I actually didn't mind my med-surg clinicals. My worst time was probably my first patient fatality that I had experienced, and it just so happened that we were in the pediatric ICU. So that was probably my worst day, right when I got onto the unit.
Yeah.
I can second with that. My very last day of my preceptorship, we had a patient who coded. I was the one that walked in the room while the nurses were doing morning med pass. I walked into the room, and there's just something in your gut that tells you I need to press the code blue button, especially in your first time seeing that. I pressed it, and all the nurses came running, of course, but seeing a code firsthand in the room like that, it was not really fun to see, but B, it pushed me to go to the ER. Honestly, that was kind of like me pushing over the finish line. I was like, I really want to get good at this. This is what I want to get good at.
We also brought you expertise, namely top business recruiter Harry Joyner, who laid down some serious facts about navigating what recruiters are really looking for out there on episode 9.
In the 20 plus years that I've done this. And I would say the big thing that I noticed, like right off the bat, is lack of specificity. I would say that too many resumes from recent college graduates are filled with vague statements like responsible for marketing campaigns. And what I would like to see in any resume, whether you're an old hand or a young gun, is something like designed and executed social media campaigns that increase engagement by 35%, right? I see a lot of young people overloading on soft skills. And to the extent possible, employers are looking for proof of competency, not just strong communication skills. So think of it in terms of it's like strong communication skills provides a certain result. Like, what's the outcome of that? And is that outcome measurable and relevant and controllable by you? And can you quantify that? The last thing that I see is failure to quantify achievements. So in general, I tell people that a resume or a LinkedIn profile without numbers is a missed opportunity to use KPIs to demonstrate how you can plug and play into an organization and actually move the needle and ideally bring a dollar in the door. That's really what it's all about. We recently went through this exercise during the pandemic, like generic resumes that look like they're copy and paste without any kind of customization for the role. That's an automatic knockout factor. I would say unexplained long employment gaps, are going to slow down the recruiting process for you, right? Anything that raises a question. What happens with a resume is it should tell a story about you, really. Like, I'm 61 in March. I can say this. I've been married for 33 years, so I've never been on a dating site, all right? But here's how I understand dating sites work. You download the app, right? You log on and you put what you're looking for in there and pop, probably 300 profiles, and then you're swiping right or swiping left. And when you're swiping right and swiping left, in the like a split second, you're telling yourself a story about the person. Nah, this gal has a shock of purple hair, not my type. So you look at, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just like, I know my type. All right, I know what I'm looking for, right? And I've got, probably 300 profiles and I'm swiping right, swiping left, and I'm telling myself a story about that person, right or wrong. I could get that story totally wrong. What happens is there's 900 million people on LinkedIn. That's a real number. So even if you're 1 in a million, right, there's 900 of you on LinkedIn. Right. And so I'm swiping right, swiping left, because I'm really good with a LinkedIn recruiter tool. That is a search field. It's a search tool. Recruiters pay a lot of money to access this thing. And there's 32 drop-down fields in LinkedIn Recruiter. And so let's say I know exactly what I'm looking for. And let's say that what I'm looking for, it's a 1 in a million person, and you pop up as a 1 in a million person. There's still 900 of you. And now, just like Tinder, I have to swipe right or swipe left, tell myself a story about your profile. And in a split second, literally, it has to resonate. It has to tell me a story. So if the resume is generic, that's probably a knockout factor. I'm going to swipe left. If there's an unexplained employment gap, right? So there's, it happens. Life happens. I'm not criticizing. But if there's an unexplained employment gap where you just disappear, and I don't know what to make of that, it's probably a swipe left. It doesn't mean you can't do the job. It just means that if there are 900 people in my search result, which would make sense because there's, 900 million people and you're 1 in a million, right? So you're going to get probably put in the B pile at the very least because of the resume gap. Or a misaligned objective would be another thing. So like the resume should clearly align with the role. And if your skills don't match, and you can't tailor for it, certainly I'm going to swipe left on that. There's an old expression in the recruiting business that people get hired for what they've done and fired for who they are. Imagine a glass of water, right? And there's like red food coloring, and you put a drop in there and it's kind of turns the whole cup of water, kind of pinkish, right? Well, organizations are like that. And it's like, well, if we drop this person in our organization, are they going to do anything amazing for the color of the organization? It's not necessarily about what they do. It's about who they are and the ideas and the character that they bring to the organization. So if I see at the bottom, of a resume, personal section, somebody says, hey, I run 20 miles a week and I have, 4 kids and I just got an MBA from South College. Yeah, that demonstrates that you're a load-bearing wall in your family. You take care of business, that you have your act together. I think that's important. The old recruiter joke, right? You're only perfect twice in your life, at birth and on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
PharmD is a very special program to us, and pharmacy is being led by an amazing dean. And I was very excited to bring you some real insights about where the pharmacy industry is going for our Doctor of Pharmacy students with Dean Tim Smith in episode 11.
The doctorate degree that you get here at South College allows you to go out into the profession and practice in over 200 different areas that allow you to have patient contact or completely removed from patient contact to where you're just working, for instance, maybe in an insurance company. But what we're going to see moving forward, I think what everyone's excited about, is that pharmacist being more accessible to the patient and having more accountability for management of outcomes associated with those medications. We know those medications can be the source of a lot of complications, whether that's adverse drug reactions or whether that's drug interactions. And that accessibility to the pharmacist and maximizing that pharmacist expertise and those medication outcomes is where we're seeing a lot of companies lean into. One of the exciting things we've begun sharing with our students and an area of explosion for the future of pharmacy is what's known as precision medicine. And what we specifically look at in pharmacy is what's called pharmacogenomics. So it's looking at your DNA, what mom and dad gave you, and using that preemptively or reactively to avoid those complications, those adverse events with medications, but also to improve outcomes. So in essence, we can, Kathleen, very easily take a buccal swab where we take a little Q-tip in your mouth, and then in about 5 business days, we get a roadmap back of you so that we can then know which medications you're better suited for, whether that's a pain medication, whether that's a cardiovascular medication for hypertension, whether that's an antidepressant. So that preemptive analysis and that precision medicine that comes from pharmacogenomics is really going to allow that pharmacist to tailor therapy like we've never been able to do before. Moving away from that trial and error that we've always had, we may ask a few questions. How did mom and dad do with the medication? But in essence, a lot of times we probably all experienced it ourselves or with friends and family, to where the physician says, hey, I'm going to bring you back in a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, or call the office. Let's see how you're doing. We can avoid a lot of that. And on the front end, know exactly, precisely what's that right medication and the selection for it. So that pharmacist having that new information, working with the patient care team to really tailor your medication regimen around a sundry of diseases is going to explode over the next 10 years.
Now, I also had a great time cutting up with students at several campuses. Enjoy this funny montage of silly conversations. All right, I have walked into a classroom and interrupted their class, so this ought to be a lot of fun. All right, now, when you get out, what do you want to do?
I think I do want to move states. I really don't have anything specifically holding me in Florida, but I'm not sure what field. I don't know if it's going to get OB or pediatrics working with younger children, so maybe pediatrics.
I love that. You're going to leave Florida, the happiest place on earth? Come on now. All right. No, I got you. All right. We have another side eye here. Not really sure. I love that I walk in a room and people are just like, what are you doing here? All right. What's your first name?
Zuhei.
Oh, wow. What a fun name. Okay. That's cool. So what's been like the fun thing? Like if you're in second quarter as well, I'm assuming. Okay, just a guess. What's been like the most fun, like the most entertaining thing that you've learned so far?
I mean, everything's fun to learn, but I say like the funnest part about like the program is like my partners and stuff because we get to learn each other's anatomy and we're just used to each other. So yeah, that's been fun.
Learning each other's anatomy. I don't know. I may have to edit that comment. I'm not sure.
You know,
I don't know. Or okay, thank you. Or well, I don't know. So what got you to South College Orlando?
um,
Just drove by and went, I feel like
I did a lot of research on other schools. I did transfer to South College from a different school, but this one kind of just caught my eye. I liked how quick they would reach back to me, and especially the advisor that I first talked to. She was very welcoming, and I really liked her.
so if there's one class you could do without, no offense to the instructor, if there's one class you could do without, what would it be?
I'm sorry, I don't like physics. I'm sorry, Professor Allen, I don't like it.
Yes, the faculty member's glaring at me now, so I shall side down. Okay, thank you. I love that. So it's another anatomy thing. We're not examining each other's anatomy, though. I'm just, just for the record. All right, cool.
But I really like this program in general because I was wanting to get into like something medical, but I didn't really know what. I wanted something that has like a good work-life balance, and then I saw sonography, and I'm like, this is the one.
Okay, and physics, how's it going?
It's going okay.
She looks carefully at the faculty member. Are you sure you want to elaborate?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Good choice. Good choice. What caught your eye on DMS?
I guess like the length of the program because it's like a 2-year program, and yeah, I actually originally was gonna do surgical tech, but yeah, I decided to go this route instead.
Because you don't have to see guts and stuff, and
That like I kind of see like the doctors are kind of like mean too.
you can't say that. Well, I mean, I get it. I get it. I love it. Well, what advice do you have for someone who's thinking about DMS?
Just go for it because I like graduated high school many years ago. I don't want to say, and
I'm sure I graduated before you did.
just go for it. Like, don't doubt yourself. The time is gonna fly by. So just.
The hardest thing for me, I think, is probably working at the same time as doing school.
Yeah, that's hard. What do you do?
I'm a host at a restaurant.
Okay.
It's not too crazy, but
But the cool thing is when you look at people walking into the restaurant, you can probably identify some things wrong with them, perhaps, now that you know physics,
sometimes, yeah. I'm like,
Say, I think I see an enlarged spleen, maybe. No? Okay. All right. No, that's fair enough. All right, guys. Fabulous class. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. Give yourself a round of applause. Thank you very much. All right. Have fun, guys. And of course, taking it all the way back to the beginning on our first episode with the always hilarious Dr. Michael Patrick, and both of us awkwardly making our way through this unknown territory of the very first episode.
I will be here 6 years. So been absolutely some of the best years of my professional life. And so hopefully the chancellor will keep me around for a few more. So one of my favorite things to do, even though I'm president of CBE, where my office is, it's near the admissions office. So I get to hear a lot of conversations, right? And sometimes I'll get to talk with our admissions reps or financial aid or student services team, and they're always great calls. But a lot of students want to talk to me, right? And so whether that's, hey, we saw Dr. Patrick post something on LinkedIn, or we saw this, or we saw that, we have a question on this. And so I'll actually get to have conversations with students. Absolute favorite part of my day, right? And so even if they're familiar with it, they'll have a lot of in-depth questions, and we'll talk. So I probably have 4 or 5 calls a week just from students, but there are a lot of people I think who are just engaging and understanding what CBE is. And so I certainly think the knowledge of what we do and how we do it's a little bit different, even than others in the space, which again, I think probably gives us a competitive advantage, if I'm just being transparent. But I think that's why students keep coming, right? And they refer their friends, and I think that's always the greatest compliment. If you're willing to refer a friend or a colleague to, hey, come do this program, to me, I think that speaks to what we do and how we serve students.
I love it. All right. So what did you want to do when you grew up? I mean, when you were, young and coming along,
Right.
and I know you've got your own children that are, in high school and thinking about the future. What did you want to be?
Well, I think first I wanted to play in the NBA, but then I realized I was slow and I probably wasn't going to grow any taller. So I think those are two negative strikes against me. And then, I kind of had the thought of like, you know what, I want to be a dentist when I grow up, right? And then, I think the older I got, I realized not quite where I wanted to go. And at the end of the day, I think I just loved students, right? And so both my parents were educators. And so it kind of fell unnaturally to me a little bit. And my grandfather was as well. He was a superintendent. And so to have the opportunity to do it now, I certainly wouldn't want to do anything else.
I love it. Well, if it's any consolation, I wanted to be a weather person. That was
I love
my
it.
dream. I'm still a weather nerd, but
I love
I wound up in marketing. Go figure. So one last question. When you're not explaining what CVE is, what do you do in your downtime? Besides talking to students on the phone, what do you do in
You
your
know
downtime?
what? I think I might eat, drink, and sleep CBE. But when I'm not doing that, honestly, it's spending time with my kids and my family. My kids are very active in sports. So I feel like there's 3 or 4 nights a week we're driving to a football game, a track meet. But I think when you love what you do, it doesn't really feel like it's work. Like I absolutely love it. I come to work excited every day. And I think, we hear that students. So while I do have other things outside of South CBE, I probably enjoy coming back to this almost as much as that. And again, so yeah, it's great, but love spending time with my boys.
I love it. All right, so now that we can all define and explain what CVE is, and if quizzed on the street, you can explain it all. So thank you, Dr. Patrick, for providing all of the answers, and thank you for being my very first guest. This was awesome. We did good. Nobody died, and
That's
that's
right.
awesome.
Absolutely. I didn't break anything, so all's positive.
When we come back, a look at what's coming up in year 2 for the Live from South College podcast. Stick around. We'll be right back.
When you start your new career path at South College, you'll join students from different walks of life at varying stages in their lives. Many students are going back to school to finish degrees, while others are pursuing elevated education that will help them improve their potential in their current roles or for chasing a new direction. South College offers over 100 programs and concentrations with specialized focus on associate, bachelor's, master's, educational specialist, and doctoral degrees in healthcare, business, technology, education, and legal studies. We are regularly developing new academic programs based on local, regional, and national trends. Each curriculum is designed to promote development of knowledge and skills in the associated discipline as we challenge and support our students. South College is committed to providing intellectual, social, and professional development to a diverse student body. With locations in Knoxville, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Asheville, North Carolina, Orlando, Florida, Indianapolis, Indiana, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Dallas, Texas, and Marietta, Georgia, as well as programs delivered through competency-based education, or CBE, and online. We're here with you every step of the way, starting with the admissions process. To find out more, visit South College at south.edu. South College, where dreams find direction.
Welcome back. Well, from crazy trips in the rain to record at other campuses, broken microphones, and some hard lessons learned while editing, it has been an awesome first year on the podcast, and a fast one, too. Each guest has brought with them plenty of perspective, experience, and passion for what we do each day. It has also brought me endless hours of fun sorting through sound bites and, yes, plenty of mistakes. I want to thank each and every guest I have had for sharing their work and a deeper look at themselves this first year of this crazy frontier called a podcast. So, what's next? Coming up in year number 2, we are going deep in some new areas like instructional design and technology, more tips and tricks on test taking from our faculty, key info you will need as it relates to communication, investing, and even a look at entrepreneurship. But that's not all. Ready to get hired as a nurse? we have some key experts with awesome advice on what you need to do to land that job as a new grad with NCLEX passing scores in hand. We'll also keep diving through all of our programs with closer looks at DMS and radiography. And of course, even more from students just like you who are here working hard and figuring it out. We will also continue to be on the road and live from Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, and our new campuses in Marietta, Georgia, and Dallas, Texas. New to the podcast? Well, you have some catching up to do. There are 28 episodes you need to go and listen to. As for me, I'm thankful for the opportunity and grateful to have some fun at work with my colleagues and our students. Thanks for an awesome first year of podcasting. Go me! With 10 campuses in 7 states plus online and CBE, there's a pathway for you at South College. Hope you enjoyed this latest episode of Live from South College. The Live from South College podcast is a production from South College Marketing. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for this awesome first year for the podcast. And if you love it, give us some stars, and you can always send us feedback by emailing us at southcollegepodcast@south.edu. And yes, of course, I do read all of them. Have an awesome day and let your dreams find direction. See you next time.